cell phones, please make sure they're silenced. And anyone, when they come up to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. And this meeting is called to order, and I'd like to introduce Erica. Well, Ray would like to introduce Erica.
Sure. So we're happy to announce Erica Martz. Erica joined us almost a month ago already as our new administrative assistant. Hannah, who we stole, I guess, a little bit from the planning division. There was a opportunity for her to go back and work in the economic development department, and so she transferred back to City Hall. We're happy to have Erica with us, and if you want to maybe give the board a little bit of background on yourself. And
yeah, I worked for the Village of Greenville for 7 years. I worked in their Parks and Public Works department, so it was definitely a smaller community, but working for more departments, I feel like it was nice and good relevant experience and working with lots of people, but I'm excited to be here.
Welcome.
so we're going to be patient with Erica tonight
Yes,
as we get through the agenda.
All right, and we do need to do roll call, right, so we make sure everyone's here. All right, roll call. You, yep.
Okay. Franz?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Metz? Millet?
Here.
Mugrauer? Herman?
Here.
Hudak?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Perfect. All right, we have no citizen statements, right? New business.
Just real quickly, Amy, just on the approval of the minutes, we'll bring those to you at the next meeting for approval. We'll bring you both the February and this month, so.
All right. So our first item up is discuss and recommend the placement of the Oshkosh Woodworker Strike historic sign near the Boat Works River Walk site.
Okay, so in the packet, I provided some background information on this agenda item. Paulette Feld, who is a member of the Oshkosh Woodworker Strike 125th Anniversary Planning Committee, and also, Paulette, are you the chair for the neighborhood association in your area?
Yeah, I'm the chair for the Historic Sixth Ward, which is where a lot of the events took place during back then.
Part of the neighborhood association for this area as well. But as you can see in the packet information, Paulette had contacted me a couple months back and said that they were working on the potential of having a sign installed along the Riverwalk, and this would commemorate the 125th anniversary of the Oshkosh Woodworkers Strike. Paulette can kind of give some background and some information and why you think it's important and why this site is important. I'll pull up a map.
Okay.
Show an area on the Riverwalk that we took a look at, both Paulette and I, and I think it'd be a decent site for the sign. It would be out of our way for any type of maintenance, and Paulette felt it was a good site too. So.
Well, I'll just start out.
Can we just get your address?
Oh, sure.
Thank
It's
you.
416 West 5th Avenue in Oshkosh, and don't try to get through our block because it's all ripped up right now. But anyhow, I was a member. The 125th anniversary of the Woodworkers Strike was actually in 2023, and we had an event in November commemorating that, and it was put on by the Wisconsin Labor History Society, and I served on a committee of people from Oshkosh and then others from around the state who helped put together that event. We held it at the Rotunda at Oshkosh Public Library. We had like standing room only for it, and people from around the state who came for it. So it's quite a well-attended event. And just to give you some history of the strike, I'll let Michelle Locken kind of give you a background of the strike. Michelle has done some research, and she's also a staff member at the Apple.
The History Museum in Castle Adams.
There you go.
I grew up in Oshkosh.
Go ahead.
So I'll give my name for the record. Michelle Locken. I live 211 Taylor Street in Little Chute. I don't live in Oshkosh any longer, but Oshkosh is dear to my heart. But we were part of this committee for the Wisconsin Labor History Society. This is a really important event, not only in Oshkosh local history, but state labor history. And even to a national or Midwest national way to an extent. So do you have the text, the sample text for the sign?
Yep.
So that was, there's word limits on these signs. So that's the most boiled down way to explain the woodworker strike. Is basically a 16-week-long strike in the summer of 1898 where about 75% of Oshkosh's woodworkers went out on strike. They walked off the job. To give a bit of context about this time, Oshkosh became a city 1853, really ramping up with wood mills and Sawdust City kind of woodworker things, but pretty much at that time in 1898, woodworkers, there was about 2,000 of them in town. The population of Oshkosh was about 28,000, so it's like almost 10% of the people that live here are working in this industry. Oshkosh really, Sawdust City, or millworking capital of the world. All of these workers, came to Oshkosh for opportunity with this, but they were among the lowest paid workers in the country. In 1898, their wages were like $1 a day, which, putting that into an inflation calculator, is just like terrifying. It's about $27 a day, and these workers were working 10 to 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Oshkosh, at this point of time, had 7 really large mills. To name a few of them: Payne Lumber Company, McMillan, Morgan, Radford, Williamson, Libby. Some of these names you kind of see around town, whether it be like streets, buildings, what complexes are named now. So these names kind of live on, but the woodworkers, the sign's really important so that kind of the woodworker story lives on, because the reason that Oshkosh got that nickname Sawdust City, was able to be one of the world's largest producers of doors and window sashes, was because of these people. So kind of going back to the strike, it was a 16-week long labor struggle, and someone actually even died during a picket demonstration. That's kind of how intense it got. But this strike, what's kind of the hard part to look about it, with a labor history lens, you're kind of looking for a positive outcome, but this strike actually didn't improve conditions for workers really at all. But the important thing that does come out of this strike, which is kind of what puts this on a good pin in the map for national history, is the way this strike ended is mill owners charged the labor leaders with civil and criminal conspiracy. And famous attorney Clarence Darrow came to Oshkosh to defend the woodworkers. That name is huge. Really puts Oshkosh on a map. If you look at any U.S. history textbook, Clarence Darrow is going to come up for the Pullman Strike of 1894 and the Scopes Monkey Trials in the 1920s. That's a huge name. Really, really important event in Oshkosh history because of that name for sure. But the trial for criminal and civil conspiracy was a not guilty verdict for the woodworkers, basically meaning that they defended their right to strike, protest, and unionize. So really important event because it just kind of helps set a precedent on a local level that standing up for your rights as a worker is something that you can do and is not a criminal conspiracy. So that's kind of the strike in a nutshell. It's pretty important to remember just because, like I said, those names of just mill owners at the time, they kind of live on around town, but the story of just everyday working people is something that's really important to remember, and that's what this plaque would really be able to do and help share that story more. So that's kind of that in a nutshell.
Okay, thanks.
So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the neighborhood and why this would be a great location for this plaque. Now, a little background on the plaque. It's going to be, we're doing this through the Wisconsin State Historical Society. So the Labor History Society is going to raise the funds to have it put up. So there'll be no cost to the city, or very negligible cost to the city for this. So we have to get pre-approval and then approval from the State Historical Society for not only the location but also the plaque itself, and then we'll pay the cost for that. So we would like to get that fundraising started so that we can get this up. Little bit more about the well, not the specific history, but Wisconsin does have a pretty extensive labor history on its own. There's been a lot of events in the state, and despite that, there is only one state historical marker that recognizes any kind of union things that have gone on in Wisconsin, and that's the in Bayview in Milwaukee. It recognizes a strike that was held there a few years before Oshkosh. And so we would be the second location. And I think with the interest that was shown in just our presentation back in November and other things that, when you talk about this, people who are interested in labor history, and there's actually a lot of people who are, they know about it, and I think it would bring people to Oshkosh to see the area. The riverfront, the South River Walk, at least in my opinion, is the perfect location for this sign. The location is near the Ohio-Wisconsin Street Bridge, and that's one of the bridges that the workers used to get to a lot of the mills. The mills that Michelle named, most of those were on the riverfront. There was only one that wasn't. And so you can walk down the Riverwalk and you're actually walking past a lot of the locations of the mills. And from the spot where the sign is going to be is most of those locations are visible. Across the river was the Radford Company. You can look down the river where Payne Lumber was. Just a few, steps away from this location is where the Morgan Company was, and Foster Hefner. So it really does, represent the location of where these places were, and it gives you an idea of what was in that area of the city at back in that point in time. That you look at the Riverwalk now, it's a beautiful space. It's, quiet. You can walk along there. And, I often think about what it must have been like down there back in the 1890s and earlier with the lumber piles and the trains and all those kind of things. So I think it really gives a different perspective to that area of the city. The other part that's important, especially, that I live in that area, is a book that was written for the centennial of the woodworkers strike by Virginia Crane, who was a professor at UW Oshkosh. In that book, she talks about how every one of those mills, there were workers at those mills living in the old 6th Ward, which is like the area right, going up from the Riverwalk in that area. And so that's the area where they all lived. A lot of the events during the strike took place, in those areas, near the bridges, all those kind of things. So that's why we've chosen this location for it. I think that's pretty much what I have, unless you have any questions for us.
I can just, on the map shown on the screen here, you can see this is the Michigan Street Boat, or the fishing dock here, so the Boat Works property, and then the Riverwalk is the Community Foundation building. But right where these bench cove is, we had talked about putting it, it'll tuck in off the Riverwalk so that people as they're walking by could see it. It's accessible for individuals with walkers, strollers, wheelchairs, and so forth. So again, I think it's somewhere that Paulette and I agreed it would work for us logistically for maintenance and so forth. And I think in their eyes, you can see down the river where a lot of the sites could be seen.
One thing in addition to that is that last fall, I did a little program for people in our neighborhood just to give them some idea of the history of where they live. And we did it in that location, and it just worked out really well with the benches there, with the trees. It's just a good location, in my opinion.
And as I had put in our, the staff information, these signs would be similar, basically bronze plaquing that we used at the Chief Oshkosh Monument site as well, and it's pretty common for these to be used by the Wisconsin Historical Society.
Right. The only difference will be that they'll have, I think the state historical plaques have a badger on them or something like that, and it also has who put up the sign and stuff, which would be the Wisconsin Labor History Society.
Any questions? Comments, concerns? Anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I think if it's consistent with all the other signage, what's staff's recommendation on?
These, we do have historic signs along the Riverwalk that are not similar to this. But again, I think because it is being worked on with the Wisconsin Historical Society and they have a pretty consistent sign or plaque that they utilize, it's consistent for those that we see around other areas, historical significant areas. So I think it would be a nice tribute, I guess. And again, it's wide open for discussion here. It will have to go to the Common Council for approval. But again, just hearing some of the history, I think it's a pretty unique way to recognize it.
I agree. I make motion.
I'll second.
So that's Lester and Devin. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you for coming in and
Thank
sharing with
you.
us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Franz,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
I'm still,
Hudak?
yep, Hudak and,
Aye.
oh, and,
yep, even though they did make the
okay,
motion.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me,
Miller?
sorry.
Aye.
So we got everybody, all five, right? Yep, so 5-0. So it'll go to the Common Council with that recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next item, discuss and recommend, so similar, we need to do a recommendation to the Common Council for the plaque at Pickard Park. Ray, you want to give us a little background?
I will, but I need to step back because I forgot to mention our new board member, a returned board member, Steve Herman, has been appointed by the mayor and the Common Council as the filling in the alternate position that was vacant. So I'm sorry, Steve, we should have had that on there.
No, that's all right.
Just want everybody to know that Steve is back onto the board after a couple of years of being off. All right, so the next item is for a plaque to possibly be placed on a boulder out at Pickard Park. This is the park that was dedicated to the city as part of the subdivision out on East 9th near Clairville Road. It's about an 1.5 acre park that we required as part of the subdivision ordinance so that there's a neighborhood park in the area. And we have joining us tonight Mary Polashinsky and Paul Pickard, who are granddaughter and grandson of John and Mary, was it, I believe, who
Yes.
started the farm back in 1912. So they're here. If you can give us your name and your address, that would be great. And then you can give us some history and why you think this is appropriate.
My name is Mary Polashinsky, and I live at 2367 Hamilton Street, Oshkosh.
My name is Paul Pickard. I live at 3420 West 9th Street Road, Oshkosh.
Well, basically, the reason we wanted to do this is simply to honor our grandparents who started this farm in 1912 as our history that we wrote up. I think you all have that in front of you. It's just a way to honor them. They bought the farm, settled on the farm in 1912. They raised several children on the farm, made it through 2 world wars, a recession, a depression, And then my father took over the farm when my grandfather got sick. He in turn raised 4 children, all went to Oshkosh schools. And we just think that since the boulder was on the park property, it'd be nice to recognize that, especially for the people who are living and building homes in Pickard Estates. So they know where it came from, how it came to be, and how it all got started. And it's very, as you can see on the, I don't know how good of a picture you have of the plaque that we kind of started, certainly. We think it's just a simple thing so that people know where it came from, how it got started, when, what year. Want to add it?
No, I'm part of this. I'm 50% of KP Development, which started all this. Me and Kevin Yank started this, so this is all part of it. I think it's just a way of keeping the name alive. Obviously, Pickard Estate's going to be around long after we're gone, but just another, it's like the one that's over on 6th Street there, Steckbauer's Park. It's the same combination. The man, he was on the Common Council, or and they were, it was a city, it was Common Council. It wasn't that type of government that time, and that bloody 6th Ward, like the lady said, that was a really prominent section of the city of Oshkosh for a long time. So that's just another part of the whole idea of having it there, so. Any questions?
Yeah, I think it's a nice tribute to your family and the history of family farms in our community.
Yep. So.
And as was stated, we do have a couple of different plaques in some of the city parks. We also have the historic signs that we worked with the League of Women Voters, just after I started, so about 15 years ago. In a number of those parks, they came up with the background and the history for those parks, and we installed signs there. So it's a little bit different, but possibly something down the road as we look at maybe expanding on the historic signs for the parks. We could look at something out there as well.
I think it's a great idea. Are we looking for a motion?
Yeah, this would be another one because it's placement in the park that we'd take it to the Common Council as well.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
Devin and Steve.
Franz,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Millet,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Hudak,
Aye.
Carried 5. Yes.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everybody.
What equipment do we have in that park?
Excuse me?
What equipment do we have in there? There's nothing in there.
Nothing there yet.
Okay.
Still, it's
So
under
there's not-
development.
I thought.
We're actually in the process of setting up a neighborhood meeting to start talking about a park plan out there. We do have money in this year's CIP to start some development out there, but I'm just working on getting a date set with the neighborhood.
Okay, we got 1.5 acres.
1.5, yes.
All right, and our last item of new business, discuss and recommend hosting Brews on the Bay at Rainbow Park in 2024. Ray, you want to give us some background?
I will start, and then I'm going to let Jenny and Chad take this one. This is another one that we're looking for a recommendation to go to the council, but due to the ongoing work on Pratt Trail in Menominee Park, Jenny and Chad had some meetings to talk about some possible alternative sites for the Brews on the Bay, the beer garden events, and they're suggesting Rainbow Memorial Park for this year. They have 7 events planned for the summer from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Wednesday evenings, June 5th and 19th, July 17th, 31st, August 7th and 21st, and September 4th. All the activities will be located on the former ice skating rink, and they can talk a little bit about the logistics. As part of this approval, what we're requesting is the council also approve that the Parks Department staff be allowed to sell fermented malt beverages at Rainbow Memorial Park. This is consistent with other sites where we've had to get approved by the council, such as the Leach, Reed's Ball Diamonds, the former golf course, Brews on the Bay at Menominee Park. State statutes allows the local municipality to provide that as long as they take action on the approval for the park staff to do so. So that'll be part of this recommendation going forward as well. But Jenny and Chad, if you guys want to talk about any of this.
Yeah, I think just to add a couple things, I think in regards to the Brews on a Bay program, I think it's been a great event for our community and for hosting from the department standpoint. That's been very successful. Our goal was to continue it this year, as Ray mentioned, just due to the construction at Menominee Park. Felt this would be a great option to work with, knowing we have some adequate parking in the evening hours, the addition of the Lakeshore Pavilion and the parking area down there. Maybe off scheduling some athletic field events on that Wednesday just to make it more conducive for some of our usage down there for doing that. And I think the biggest thing on the map that you'll see with the orientation of that is where we'd place our serving area on one, our food court vendors on other end, and then have the band playing towards the river so it would not offend any areas of the residents in that area and stuff to work from. Knowing that the bands are a little bit more lower key than like a Leach type setting to work with, we felt it was a good place to try this year and work with. So we're hoping to put it back to Menominee Park next year should all the construction be done, or if it happens where we can move some things later this year back to Menominee would be it, but we're not granted that schedule yet going forward. So I think it's a great, still a great program. We love seeing it, and hopefully Rainbow will be a good transition for this alternate year for that. So.
Think of anything else? And you said parking, there's plenty?
Yeah, I think for the, down there between the Veterans Parkway, the Rainbow Trail, the evenings that usually there's not as much launch activity at Rainbow Park. You know, we'll just still do some amenities with having portalets brought down, even though we do have the exterior restrooms on the Lakeshore Pavilion to work from, and some adequate parking over there. I think we have 82 stalls over there. We'll have to look to see if it's rented on an evening like that basis, but Wednesdays are generally pretty low when it comes to rentals for our types of facilities.
That was the one question I had, Chad, was the softball diamond. Does the Parks Department control that during the summer months?
Yes, we do. We schedule that, correct.
Okay. So
I would schedule it off those evenings for games.
Okay.
Practices aren't a big deal from
Right.
my end, but a game would be a definite challenge.
Yeah, because there'll be parking in the neighborhood as it is. So. And then the boat launch, are you gonna kind of do like you have in the past where you kind of re-emphasize boat parking only? Because, you know, you said it, but I know a lot of people park in those boat launch areas because it's a close walk.
The parking will be monitored still as is, as it's
Okay.
signed to do that. We do have some single stall parkings around that parking lot as
Right.
well. And both sides of Veterans or Rainbow Trail is parkable as well to deal with.
So what was our attendance when we were doing it on the bay?
It really depends upon, of course, the weather, the night, but you know, a good crowd for Brews on the Bay is typically between 500 and 700 people. They're pretty well attended. We've gotten upwards closer to 800-900 people on some of the weeks. But there's a lot of road parking, you know, around Rainbow too that boaters use in general. So I think there's definitely, like Chad said, ample room for that. We had a couple other sites that we, you know, kind of thought about and talked about, but we didn't want to have it at South Park because it's not like a food truck Friday. You know, we just wanted to leave that to be their thing. So we thought this would be the best kind of fit, and it's still by water, you know, it's Brews on the Bay. So there's still a water aspect there and space for people to walk around, like in Menominee Park. 'Cause a lot of times they'll kind of set up a little area under a tree or just kind of find their own little space for the night. So this spot still gives ample area for people to spread out and just sit with their families and listen to music, get some food from the food truck. So
Yeah, I think it's a great secondary spot to have it at. Like the only thing I was worried about was parking, and I didn't know. I knew we always got a good amount, but the grand total
yeah,
from you to give it to us at the end of the season. But
yeah,
yeah, 500 people. There's enough park space for everybody to be there.
yeah.
It's just the parking that's a little bit would be a little bit tight, but it's the best option out of everything else you got.
And to be completely honest, some of the road parking here is gonna be closer than where they park for Brewers on the Bay at the park. You know, they'd park clear over down almost by the gazebo towards the ball diamonds, or they'd park way down by the beach house, you know, so as far as the road parking, throughout the area, it'll really be kind of the same distance.
It's nice to do something at Rainbow.
Yeah.
I mean, you do stuff all at all of the other parks, so it's nice to do something at Rainbow.
Get some of the people that haven't been in this area of the park to see what's changed out there. You know, a little more exposure, I think, is another positive of it.
We'll definitely give the new shelter some exposure too,
Yeah.
for people to, that if they don't know it's there, or we'll kind of give that some exposure, we were thinking as well.
Absolutely.
And just a different neighborhood, you know, maybe some people can only walk down to, you know, Menominee, or maybe some people can walk down here, you know, just in a different neighborhood, to give different people out into the park, so.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Devin and Tim.
Franz,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Millen,
Aye.
Herman,
Aye.
Hudak,
Aye.
Motion carried.
motion carried.
All right, now on
Thank you.
staff reports.
All right, update on Pratt Trail reconstruction project for you. With the on and off winter weather we've been having recently, originally the archaeologists were planning to be back on site working the week of March 25th, I believe. Due to weather, they pushed that off, and with the recent snowfall last week, they were delayed. So I believe they're planning for this week being back out on site to begin work again, assuming that things dry out well. The latest news that I have, just to complete the work on, let's call it the south side of the road that we have exposed at this point, possibly looking at about 10 weeks, which takes us considerably close to the July 4th holiday. I've been working with all the parties involved, saying that, you know, we do still intend to have the Festival Foods Fireworks Show on July 4th at Menominee, so we need to make sure that any excavation or any holes in the road, we need to have filled in at that point. So that's our goal, is to continue working to get that south side of the road cataloged and taken care of with the archaeologists before July 4th. With that being said, I don't see the road being opened anytime soon, because there's still road work that needs to happen on the other lane of Pratt Trail. So I don't want to say how far out that might be, but I am saying that I don't foresee much use of Pratt Trail, potentially at least till July 4th. And we'll see how things progress up until then. So that's that update. The Menominee Park Beach Bathhouse project that we had put on hold momentarily while everything was going on with Pratt Trail, as well as the Clear Wells project, and kind of trying to coordinate the various projects. We are moving forward with demolition of the bathhouse. We have worked with getting the utilities disconnected. We've had the asbestos assessment done, and so we are working in-house with our streets department to begin demolition of that building. Our goal is to have it done yet this April, so that we can get topsoil seed backfilling done, and have it at least trying to get some turf established before Memorial Day weekend, when we officially have the beach open. So right now it'll be an open green space site following demolition. We have been working with UWM, the archaeologist, again, because we expect that in that area of the beach house that there are some more cultural remains or cultural artifacts that we'll be cognizant of. So they will be on site anytime we're doing any ground disturbance below ground. And so we're working with them to make sure that they're on site during that project as well. So that's our goal at this point, and we will see how it goes from there. We do have in our 5-year capital improvement program, which this board will be taking a look at next month. We still do have a new bathhouse planned, but that project, the dollar cost is getting considerably higher, depending on potentially what we discover during the demolition of any cultural artifacts may increase the cost of that as well and extend the time frame on how long it might take to get that project completed. So waiting to see as we get further into the demolition of that building. So for the summer, just like we have for the past couple of summers, we'll plan to have a couple of portable toilets down there for the use of the beach area.
Ray, before you go on.
Yep.
Just back to the Pratt Trail thing for a minute. Are we tracking the lost revenue from not being able to rent out the Kiwanis shelter and the other shelter since the road is closed? Because that money that we're losing, I know it's not a lot because our rentals aren't that high, but we should be tracking it only because then we should be asking that back in the budget for lost revenue.
We can easily look at that, and as part of our meetings with the tribal nation leaders, we did share with them that both the two shelters, the Kiwanis and Shelter 2 with the restrooms on it, pretty much from the first part of May until mid-September, every weekend are typically booked. So when we take a look at that.
Do we at least leave the restrooms open in that one shelter?
Yeah, restrooms are open, yes.
Okay.
So.
'Cause I'm sure that affects the zoo even too. And you can't,
It
the
affects a
train
lot of-
rides and all the things that happen in the Lakefront Cafe area.
Yep, I would say it affects the zoo somewhat. I think it's more on the special event side for at the zoo. There's still parking, but there's less parking. I know that we have started to get a number of calls from the general public, just starting to grow a little frustrated on how long it's taking. And it's really, a process that we have to continue to
Right.
work with, with the state and the tribal nations. So we ask for their patience. But to answer your original question, Steve, we can easily.
I just say it's something to just keep it
And
going.
we could share that as we could start getting into the 25 budget, the operating budget with the council. Good thing for us is we've got the Lakeshore building online now that has been rented
Right.
out considerably, so we'll offset a little bit of that loss, but still, it's a loss.
Yeah.
So. All right, my last report is on the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. We had the citizen, or the community survey, that closed on March 31st, and I just got those results last week after the survey closed, so I forwarded those to our consultant. They are looking at those results and compiling those. I would hope that we can have a report at the next meeting for this board to take a look at on those results. Not a lot of surprises, I don't think. I think one of the items that I made note of is a lot of people telling us maintain what you have before you keep building more, and I think we've talked about that as a board for the number of years. Although we still know we need to continue to add things like Pickard Park, and when these places develop and come into the city, we still need to be able to provide park space and amenities for those neighborhoods. But I think, ultimately for the last 15 years, we've heard that pretty loud and clear to, continue to maintain what we have. There's a lot of general comments in there, some, that interesting. There's a lot of comments that I'll share that, people ask why we don't have trash cans in the parks, and we've been take out what you bring in, like state parks, since 1999, 2000, and a lot of that came down to resources, staffing, but not only staffing, but at that time, from what I understand, they had a number of back injuries and other things with staff not having the proper equipment to dump large trash cans and so forth. So if you ask us, I think that take out what you bring in is working okay. It's just like any other state park. You're going to have the responsible people along with the other individuals that continue to not take out their items. So those were just a couple that jumped out to me. A lot of different suggestions for where we could look at having another splash pad. If you've been on the board for a while, it's been in our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan to install one out in West Haven Park. That continues to be a push. People at Quarry Park area, now that there's a neighborhood association there, they're starting to ask about what they could potentially start looking at for their neighborhood park. So we'll start having some discussions based on that site being a landfill or a former landfill, what can and can't happen there on certain areas. So all in all, I think it's some pretty interesting comments that we'll be able to share, and we'll get some usage ideas as well. So if there's no questions, I'm done.
All right, Mr. Dolman.
Super. Yeah, a couple of fun things happening in the parks this year right now. As you guys know, the Bear and Fox exhibit from Menominee Park Zoo has been an ongoing process over the past year. for that. But I'm happy to say tomorrow I'll be meeting with our contractor to go through hopefully our final punch list in regards to the building exhibit-wise from that end. The next thing will be is internally, our department's going to work on doing a lot of the landscaping, both for inside and outside the exhibit. So that'll be a big thing, and hoping that Mother Nature cooperates with us over the next month to do so from that. We've also reached out to numerous organizations in regards to retaining some black bears for the exhibit, and are on standby with them and working on those provisions. So I don't have any updates for you on that, because we are looking for bears that are either nuisance animals or orphaned that can't be relocated for educational purposes for our facility, and working with those agencies appropriately as we can. So I'll definitely be updating you more in the future. Hopefully have better direction on that at our May's meeting. So it's exciting to see. We thank you very much for the Harrenberg's donation to help with this exhibit and the improvements to Menominee Park, and look forward to seeing the public utilize and learn from it here as we go forward. So our second one in the 2025 CIP budget we had for playground replacement for the 44th Parallel Park. Currently working on the specifications for that bid to go out. I think based on time frames and stuff, you'll probably see something late summer, early fall, more towards this project for the completion of that taking place. So looking forward to seeing that improvement. That will be accessible and up to date with our current standards and guidelines going forward. So you'll see some activity there here later in the summer. That's all I have today.
All right. Mr. Dirks.
All right, not a whole lot. So we're still doing our ash tree removal program. So it's just going to be 220 trees coming out of both terraces, and we also did the Riverside Cemetery that had 60. So there was, well, actually there's 63. So there's 157 that were coming off the terraces. To my knowledge, they're probably about 3/4 of the way done with that. They're getting towards the south end of town now, pushing out that way. And we're also going to be doing 150 trees, planting 150 trees over in the Stevens Park neighborhood this spring. And it's doing various memorial tree plantings throughout the parks.
I forgot we were going to put on your Arbor Day, because before the next meeting, Arbor Day will be, if you want to remind the board about that.
Yes, and so this year, we're having our Arbor Day celebration at Jefferson Elementary. So I just spoke with the teachers today. They're planning on doing an essay contest with their students and a poster contest, which is going to be kind of neat. We're also going to be celebrating our 43rd year as a tree city, so I think that's kind of exciting. But
Is that like the second longest running municipality in the state? I recall correctly.
I want to say we're in the top 10. I don't remember exactly.
It's been a long time.
But we're definitely one of the longest ones.
Nice. All right, any questions? No? All right. Jenny?
All right, so we just got done with our big Breakfast with the Bunny and Bunny in the Barn event out at County Park, or I shouldn't say County Park, I'm sorry, Sunnyview Expo. So we partner with Winnebago County for having it out there. Last year was the first year we did it out there, and it really worked nice. We've definitely outgrown any of our city facilities to host a breakfast in. So we serve 704 people breakfast, which is awesome. Southwest Rotary does all of our pancake flipping, which we couldn't do it without them, so they're in the kitchen doing everything. Takes a lot of different community members and groups to help, with the different parts of the breakfast and clearing tables and keeping everything going. So after the breakfast, we go right into the egg hunt for the kids then out in the barns, which again, in the past, parents would have to go to the senior center for breakfast and then down to Menominee Park for the zoo. So it's still a fundraiser for our zoo that we do, but this is a really great host location that we plan to keep. The room out there is great. People can move around, and kids can move around in strollers and wheelchairs. So it really sets up nice out there, and it's a nice location. Some come for just breakfast, some might come just for the hunt, but they're able to come out there and just have everything for the day in one location. So we had the 704 people for breakfast, and for the egg hunt we had 741 kiddos that participated in the egg hunt. So It was a great event. Certainly couldn't do it with all the sponsors and the in-kind donations that we get to make that event happen. So it was a good year for sure. So I'm going to pass out, these are hot off the press here, but if you haven't had a chance to, pick up in past years, we kind of went to this format a year or two ago. We used to do separate brochures for the Leech and for the zoo and for the pool, for the amusement center. So rather than trying to do 4 different brochures, we went into doing everything in an activity guide here. So you will see everything that we do at all facilities. Discover Oshkosh here on the cover is our print partner, so they print this for us each year. But it'll start going through the zoo, our Lake Fly Cafe, what the hours are, kind of what the season is. Talks about our Wildlife Wednesdays, which are great programs that we bring in every Wednesday. Different groups like the new zoo might come in. We might bring in Schlitz. They might come in and do a presentation. We have reptile people, birds of prey. So that's a program that is really popular every Wednesday from June 1st till the last Wednesday in August, that we bring speakers in for the kids to do hands-on demonstrations. And then daily, we do all of our own programs as well with our zoo education coordinator. So she hosts about 3 programs a day. They include tours, crafts with the kids, hands-on demonstrations with our animals. So this is our zoo education coordinator's 2nd year, and she has done a phenomenal job. She was a retired school teacher for 30 years, so she does great with the kids, and it's a really great asset to our zoo. So it'll talk about the different events in the zoo that we host. Also with the construction of Menominee Park, we are moving our summer events that we usually hold at the amusement center, so those we're moving over to South Park this year. Some of our Wild Wild West, our summer luau, and our bubble days, just so it's an easier area for people to access and do the fun events with their kids. And the playgrounds are courts there, the splash pad, so it's a great fit for those events as well. And it shows our Brews on the Bay, which we talked about already. The pool season gives you all the details of when our pass sales are, when our special events are at the pools, our kid camps, everything that we do over there. New this year, we are doing some morning sessions of yoga at the pool. In the past, we've done them in the evening, and some of the participants really wanted to see a morning program, because that's where they feel their best to get out and do things. And we're also adding in water fitness classes this year at Pollock, which will run 6 weeks on Mondays, and those will be put on by some of our fitness people over at the senior center. So that's again another partnership with the senior center and the pool. So we'll be offering some of those fitness classes. That'll be new this year in the mornings as well. And then it goes into the Leech Amphitheater and kind of everything we do there, our concerts. We are doing yoga at the Leech again this summer. That was really popular last summer. People, I think these pictures of it are great. It just shows kind of a really great feel at that facility for people to do yoga down there. So it's really enjoyable, and people really, really like that. So, and then again, our movie nights, our June Dairy Days, and Touch a Truck. And then it kind of just talks a little bit about just kind of our mission statement and things in general. And some pictures of our shelters and things. So it's kind of everything we do in a nutshell at a lot of our different facilities and our facility hours and things, so a good thing to keep handy. Or if you're looking to volunteer at any of the events, we certainly always need help at all of our facilities here. On the back here, this is also available online. If you go to the City of Oshkosh website, there's a click version of it, which is really nice. You can just click through the pages so families can kind of click on the live links, stuff like that. But we have a new volunteer software this year that Kathy Snell does our volunteers. And it's a really great program that we can actually track everything right when they come to the event. They can sign in on the computer, so it tracks all their hours for KPIs, how many volunteers. And that's been really great for us so far at our first events. It spits out a report of everything. So we're always looking for volunteers at all of our events, and if someone's looking to do that, the link is live on the online version of this. So it's kind of what the summer will be soon what we'll be offering. So any questions at all? All right.
looking forward to the summer.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. All right, Ray, some special business.
So we have a couple of board members who are celebrating their 5 years of service with the Advisory Parks Board. One of those is Becky Metz. Becky should step back. The mayor and Common Council had handed these out at a Common Council meeting back on March 26th. It was the day before that the State of the City video was released. The next day where these awards were talked about as well. But Devin Hudak is celebrating 5 years with the board, so if you can give that to Devin.
Thank you.
And then we have Lester, who's also been with us for 5 years. So Becky, Lester, and Devin. So thank you for your continued volunteer work with the board, and appreciate all that you guys do for us.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, if nothing else, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.